I rushed to the hospital after my daughter's car crash. Broken ribs, severe injuries. I stayed by her side for 4 days, watching her suffer. While she slept, a nurse secretly handed me a folded note. She's lying. Check the cameras. 3 a.m. last night. Lying? Who's lying? My daughter could barely breathe. This had to be wrong. But something felt off. So I checked the security footage. What I saw shattered my world completely. Before I share what that footage revealed, tell me, where are you right now and what time is it? I'm grateful you're here listening tonight. The pale lights in room 203 at Memorial Hospital hummed quietly on that cold March evening. I sat slumped in the stiff chair beside my daughter's bed, every bone in my body aching for rest. 4 days. 4 days since the call came that Rebecca had been in a terrible car accident on Highway 12. 4 days since they wheeled her into surgery with broken ribs and internal injuries, that I'm Thomas Bennett, 64 years old, retired accountant, widower for 6 years now. And right now, watching my only daughter lying pale and broken in that hospital bed, I felt every single one of those years weighing on me. Dad. Rebecca's voice was barely a whisper that I leaned forward immediately. I'm here, sweetheart. What do you need? Water, please. Her face twisted in pain as she tried to shift. The tubes and wires attached to her looked like prison chains that I held the cup to her lips, watching her sip carefully. My girl, 32 years old, but lying there helpless, she looked as vulnerable as when she was 5. You should go home, she said weakly. Get real sleep. I'm fine right here. Dad, you're exhausted. Anderson will be back in the morning. Please. Anderson, her husband of 4 years. He'd been here earlier, looking worried before leaving to check on their daughter, Sophia. Good man, I'd always thought, taking care of everything while Rebecca recovered. The door opened softly, and a night nurse entered. Claire Watson, according to her badge. Mid-40s, competent-looking, with kind but tired eyes. I'd seen her several times over the past nights. Always professional, always efficient. Time for vitals, she said quietly, moving to check Rebecca's monitors. She adjusted the 4-drip, checked the readouts, made notes on her tablet. All routine. But then something changed that as she turned to leave, she paused beside my chair. Her hand reached out, as if to adjust the blanket draped over the armrest. Her fingers brushed mine, and suddenly I felt something small and folded being pressed into my palm. Paper. My eyes shot up to her face. Claire was looking straight ahead, her expression professionally neutral, but there was something in her gaze when it briefly met mine. A warning. An urgency. She turned and walked out without another word, the door clicking shut behind her. What was that about? Rebecca muttered drowsily, her pain medication pulling her towards sleep. Nothing, sweetheart. Just the nurse doing her job. My heart was hammering as I slowly unfolded the paper in my lap, keeping it hidden from Rebecca's view. The handwriting was hurried but clear. She's lying. Check the cameras. Last night, 3 a.m. The words blurred as I read them again and again, that she's lying. That I looked up at my daughter. Rebecca's eyes were closed now, her breathing evening out into the rhythm of medicated sleep. Her face was peaceful, vulnerable. My girl, who I'd taught to ride a bike, who'd cried on my shoulder when her mother died, who'd called me first thing after Sophia was born. That she's lying about what? The accident? Her injuries? But why would a nurse warn me about my own daughter? My hands were shaking as I folded the note and slipped it into my pocket. The room suddenly felt colder, the antiseptic smells sharper, the beeping of monitors more insistent. 4 days I'd sat here. For days of watching her suffer, of holding her hand, of promising her everything would be okay. And now this tiny piece of paper was telling me that none of it might be real. That I stood up slowly, my knees protesting. The hallway outside was dimly lit and empty. Somewhere down the corridor, I could hear the quiet murmur of voices at the nurse's station. Check the cameras. Last night, 3 a.m., that I didn't know what I'd find, but I knew one thing with absolute certainty. By morning, my world would never be the same. Dawn hadn't broken when I left Memorial Hospital, not heading home. I needed somewhere quiet to think, somewhere to decide whether I truly wanted the truth. The all-night diner on Oak Street was nearly empty. I slid into a corner booth, a cup of black coffee cooling before me, and unfolded the crumpled note. She's lying. Check the cameras. Last night, 3 a.m. Claire's handwriting stared back at me. Every word a small betrayal. My daughter. My only child. The girl who at 8 years old had sworn with her hand over her heart. Dad, I'll never lie to you ever. Memories surfaced without warning. Rebecca angling her phone away whenever I entered the room. Anderson mentioning too casually how much the house must be worth now. The way she winced dramatically for visitors, yet seemed comfortable when it was just us, that I had ignored it all, telling myself grief and exhaustion were making me paranoid. The coffee tasted like ash. That I need to know. The thought came cold and certain. Whatever it costs, I need to know who my daughter really is. That I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in years. Patrick Holmes. We'd worked together in the 90s before he left accounting to become a private investigator. He answered on the third ring. Thomas Bennett. Been a while. Patrick, I said. I need your help. There was a pause. What kind of help? It's my daughter, Rebecca. Car accident. She's in the hospital, but I think she may be lying about her injuries. Silence. Then, that's serious, Tom. What makes you think that? A nurse slipped me a note. Told me to check the security footage from her room. 3 a.m. Hospital cameras aren't easy to access, Patrick said carefully. And once you see something, you can't unsee it. Are you sure? I have to know, I said. Even if it destroys me. Another pause. All right. Give me 3 hours. I'll get you access. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You might regret this. The call ended. I sat there nursing cold coffee as dawn crept across the diner windows. Then I drove back to the hospital parking lot and waited in my car with my laptop balanced on my knees. That if you're finding this story gripping so far, please hit that like button. It really helps others discover these true stories. Morning shift. Rebecca would be waking, probably calling for Anderson, probably wondering where I'd gone. Dad, I'll never lie to you. 8-year-old Rebecca, gap-toothed and earnest, making that promise after sneaking cookies before dinner. At 9:15, my phone buzzed. Patrick. Link attached. Watch it alone. Call me after. One click. That was all it would take. My finger hovered. My heart hammered. The parking lot was empty. No one could see me. Some truths, once known, can never be unknown. But I was already past the point of return. That I stared at the dark screen, hearing my pulse in my ears. Thinking of hospital halls, of trust built over decades, of how love makes liars invisible. That I clicked the link. The screen flickered, then showed a grainy overhead view of room 203. The timestamp read 3:02 a.m. My hand shook as I moved toward play. The screen flickered to life, and my world began to collapse. Black and white overhead view. Room 203. Recorded by a ceiling-mounted camera. The timestamp glowed faintly in the corner. 3:00 a.m. I watched myself on the screen, hunched, exhausted, shuffling out of the room. Thomas Bennett, still believing his daughter was in unbearable pain. A fool. The door closed. Silence filled the room. For 4 minutes, nothing happened. Rebecca lay still, the monitors casting thin shadows along the wall. Then at 3:04, her eyes snapped open. Not slowly. Not painfully. Just open. Sharp. Alert. She turned her head left, then right, listening, making sure she was alone. At 3:06, she sat up. No groan. No hesitation. She pushed herself upright smoothly, easily, like a woman who had never been injured. She swung her legs over the side of the bed. No shaking. No weakness. My hands went numb on the steering wheel. She reached beneath her pillow and pulled out her phone. At 3:08, she scrolled, face relaxed, even smiling. The smile of someone comfortable. Not the face of a woman in agony. At 3:09, the door opened. Anderson slipped inside, glancing back before closing it. He carried a large paper bag. Fast food. Even in grainy footage, I could see grease stains. At 3:11, he handed her the bag. She opened it. Burger, fries, soda. And ate. Not carefully. Not gingerly. She ate like a healthy 32-year-old woman. They talked while she chewed, mouths moving silently, sharing smiles. My chest tightened like a fist closing around my heart. At 3:13, Rebecca laughed. She threw her head back, carefree. Anderson sat on the edge of the bed, the same bed I'd been terrified to touch. And they kept talking. Easy. Intimate. Conspiratorial. At 3:16, he clapped her shoulder. She stood, gathering the trash, erasing evidence. She leaned down, kissed his forehead, quick and efficient, and he left. Rebecca lay back, tucked her phone under the pillow, pulled the blanket up, and closed her eyes. Within seconds, she looked exactly as she had before. Broken. Helpless. Suffering. Asleep. The video ended at 3:19 a.m. I stared at the black screen, my reflection faint and hollow. I looked ancient. She can walk. The thought came cold and factual, but my body rejected it. My hands shook. My breath came shallow that I wanted to scream, to smash the windshield, but only silence came. The suffocating quiet of betrayal. All those hours sitting by her bed, holding her hand while she pretended to suffer. Listening to her beg me not to leave. Dad, I'm scared. What if I never recover? Lies. Every word. That I closed the laptop slowly. Outside, the parking lot filled with morning staff and visitors. People living ordinary lives, unaware that inside this car, a father had just lost his daughter. Why? The question echoed where my heart used to be. Why lie? Why put me through days of agony, neglecting my own health, my sleep, my grief? Anderson kept mentioning how the house must be worth so much now. The memory surfaced like a body breaking water, that MY house. The craftsman on Maple Avenue. Paid off. In my name. No, but I already knew. The pieces locked together with sickening clarity. Rebecca at 8. Dad, I'll never lie to you. Rebecca at 32. A stranger wearing my daughter's face. The video was over, but the images burned on. I didn't know why yet, but I was going to find out. I drove home in absolute silence. No radio. No music. No thoughts. Only the engine's hum and my heartbeat pounding in my ears. When the car stopped before the old craftsman, the house Janet and I had built over 38 years, a cold clarity struck me. This is what my daughter wants to take from me. I walked through the front gate. Janet's garden bloomed along the path. Purple and white flowers glowing in afternoon light. She planted those flowers the year Rebecca was born. Inside, the living room smelled of old wood and lemon polish. Our wedding photo hung above the fireplace. Two young people who believed in forever. 38 years of memories. And my daughter wanted to sell it all. I opened my laptop and changed every password. Bank accounts, investments, email. Then I pulled the property deed from the cabinet and locked it in the safe. I called the bank. This is Thomas Bennett. Account 8,214. Freeze any large transactions. No checks over 7,000 without my direct in-person approval. The clerk hesitated. Mr. Bennett, is everything all right? Just taking precautions. If she wants this house, she'll have to go through my dead body first. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Charlotte Reed, 63, widowed, Janet's closest friend, holding a plastic container. Thomas, she said softly. I made brownies. Thought you might need something sweet. That's kind of you, I replied. She studied my face. You look different. Is something wrong? Family matters. Rebecca, is she all right? She's doing better than I thought. Something in my voice stopped her questions. If you need anything, she said gently, I'm next door. After she left, I stood alone in the hallway. The house felt heavier, soaked with decades of life. Janet's laughter. Rebecca's first steps. Christmas mornings. Ordinary moments my daughter was willing to trade for cash. My phone rang. Patrick. Thomas. I dug deeper. It's worse than you think. I sat down. Tell me. Dr. Carolyn Porter. Rebecca's surgeon. Received $18,000 from an account tied to Anderson. A bribe. And it was paid 2 weeks before the accident. My stomach dropped. Before? They planned it. The accident, the injury, everything. I struggled to breathe. I accessed the X-ray records, Patrick continued. No broken ribs. None. But Porter reported severe fractures requiring immediate surgery. $320,000. A fake diagnosis. Completely fabricated. And there's more. Anderson owes $215,000 from a failed business deal. Creditors are closing in. The house, the buyer Rebecca mentioned, is a broker and Anderson's friend. They plan to buy your house for $500,000, flip it, and split the profit. I closed my eyes. The truth locked together with sickening precision. My daughter bribed a doctor, staged an accident, faked injuries, and manipulated me into selling my home below value to cover her husband's debts. I walked to the small table where Janet's photo rested. Our wedding day. Her hopeful smile. I failed you, I whispered. Then I heard her voice in memory. You're stronger than you think. Don't let anyone take what's ours. I won't, I said. I texted Patrick. I know everything. They don't know I know. Tomorrow I'm going back to the hospital. His reply came instantly. What are you going to do? I stared at the screen, then typed, this time I'll be the actor. The next morning, I stood before the bathroom mirror. The man staring back had tired eyes, but something in them had changed. The soft gaze of a trusting father was gone. In its place were the cold, clear eyes of a man betrayed. Today, I would act just as my daughter had done for 4 days that I practiced a concerned smile, a weary voice. Of course I'm here, sweetheart. Where else would I be? Perfect. When I entered room 203, I wore the mask of a devoted father. Dad. Rebecca's voice trembled weakly. You came back. Of course, sweetheart. I sat beside the bed and took her hand. Her skin was warm, real. Everything else about her was a lie. How could I not be here? I didn't sleep, she said softly. The pain is unbearable. My stomach twisted, but my face showed only sympathy. I'm so sorry you're suffering. Inside, I was ice. Before we continue, if this story is keeping you on the edge of your seat, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support means everything. The door opened. Anderson walked in carrying a thermal container, his smile bright and gentle. Dad, I brought soup for you and Rebecca. He poured 2 bowls. I accepted one and took a sip. It tasted like swallowing glass. You look exhausted, he said. Did you sleep at all? Not much. I was worried about Rebecca. Please don't worry. She's going to be fine. His eyes flicked to Rebecca for a brief, calculated second that I noticed. I said nothing. Anderson folded his hands, his expression shifting to reluctant concern. The performance began. Dad, I need to talk to you about finances. I looked up, feigning confusion. What about them? The surgery. It's $320,000. I spoke to the insurance company, but he paused. They denied the claim. What? Why? They say Rebecca had a pre-existing condition she didn't disclose. They won't cover the cost. I let shock cross my face. Then how are we supposed to pay for it? Anderson hesitated, perfectly timed. I have an idea, but I'm afraid to suggest it. Go on. A friend of mine is a real estate broker. He has a buyer interested in a house on Maple Avenue. If you sold your home, we could pay for the surgery immediately. I stared at him. Let silence stretch. Sell the house. That's the home Janet and I built. 38 years. I know, he said gently, cruelly. But this is Rebecca's future. Between a house and your daughter's ability to walk, what would you choose? Rebecca's voice broke, thick with tears. Dad, I don't want you to lose your home because of me. She paused, then whispered. But I don't want to spend my life in a wheelchair. Please. I'm scared. I looked at her. My daughter. Crying on cue like a seasoned actor. Inside, I wanted to scream. Outside, I squeezed her hand. Let me think about it, I said. This is a big decision. Anderson nodded, relief flashing across his face. Please don't wait too long. The surgery has to happen within 3 weeks. I stood. I'll go home and consider it. In the hallway, Claire passed with a medication cart and stopped. You saw it? She whispered that I nodded. I'm sorry, she said softly. Outside, my hands shook as I unlocked the card. 32 years, and she played me perfectly that I called Patrick. Get the evidence ready. When I looked back at the hospital, I whispered, very soon. 2 days later, I sat across from Patrick in his office. Evidence covered his desk like a puzzle finally complete. The tablet sat ready, video cued. A bank transfer receipt showed $18,000 sent to Dr. Carolyn Porter. 2 X-ray scans lay side by side. The real one proving no broken ribs, and Porter's falsified report claiming severe fractures. Credit statements showed $215,000 in debt. And there was the contract from Anderson's real estate friend offering $500,000 for a house worth $750,000. Patrick tapped the documents. This is enough to go to the police right now. Not yet, I said evenly. I need to hear her admit it to my face. Thomas, that's going to hurt. I know, but I need closure. I need to look my daughter in the eye and hear the truth from her own mouth. Patrick studied me for a long moment, then nodded. All right, we'll do it your way. The next morning, I returned to room 203 with Patrick, Charlotte, and hospital security nearby. When I walked in carrying the tablet, Rebecca's smile faltered immediately. Dad, what's going on? You're asking what's going on? That's a good question. My voice was calm. Flat. But before I tell you, I want to show you something. I pressed play on the tablet. The footage rolled. 3:04 a.m. Rebecca sitting up, walking, laughing, eating. The room went silent except for the hum of machines. When it ended, Rebecca's face turned white. Anderson stood frozen. Where did you get that? Anderson's voice was shrill that I turned to him slowly. Where do you think? Dad, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. My voice was ice. That's my daughter at 3 a.m. After I went home exhausted from 4 days of caring for her. I pointed at the tablet. She sat up. She walked. She laughed. While I believed she might never recover. Rebecca finally spoke, her voice weak. Dad, I can explain. Explain what, Rebecca? My voice cracked like a whip. Explain how you walked while telling me you were paralyzed? Explain how you ate burgers while I spoon-fed you soup? Explain. She flinched. Said nothing. Patrick opened the folder. 2 X-ray reports lay inside. I held them up. One is real. One is fake. I looked at my daughter, her husband, and the air vanished from the room. The game is over. Dr. Porter was suspended and investigated for medical fraud. Anderson was questioned for attempted fraud. Rebecca faced charges. My house remained mine, that I never visited Rebecca again. Letters came every week. Apologies. Please. I didn't open them. 2 months later, spring settled over the city. Flowers covered the garden outside my window. Charlotte invited me to dinner. Patrick called often. My granddaughter Sophia still visited every weekend with her other grandparents. That I realized something important. I wasn't alone. That I looked at Janet's photo on the mantel. I hope you're proud of me. That evening, I stood in the garden. The bushes bloomed beautifully. At the edge, one purple flower stood taller than the rest. That I smiled. Janet, your garden still blooms. And I'm still here. People say family is everything. I learned that isn't always true. Sometimes family hurts you most. Sometimes love brings betrayal. That I learned love doesn't require accepting abuse. Forgiveness isn't mandatory for peace. Self-respect matters more than blood. This house still stands, built by Janet and me. Her garden blooms every spring, and I'm still here. I chose myself. That doesn't make me selfish. It makes me human. If you face betrayal from someone you love, remember this. You don't have to choose between them and yourself. Sometimes protecting yourself is the greatest love. You aren't alone. People will stand beside you because of who you are. Charlotte, Patrick, little Sophia, they are my family now. Family isn't defined by DNA. It's defined by loyalty and kindness. By showing up when it matters. Have you faced betrayal from someone you loved? How did you find peace? Share your story in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe for more stories of resilience and courage. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss another true story like this one. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. My name is Thomas Bennett. I'm 64 years old. I lost my wife 6 years ago. I lost my daughter, or the daughter I thought I had, but I did not lose myself. Family isn't blood. It's who stands beside you. You deserve respect. You deserve truth. You deserve peace. God bless you.